You have likely felt stuck with thoughts that repeat over and over, memories that cause pain, and emotions that weigh heavily on your mind. This audiobook is designed to guide you step by step on how to release those burdens and regain control over your mental and emotional state. You will discover practical actions that can be applied every day to calm your mind, manage stress, and improve your emotional well-being. Each chapter provides clear techniques to face difficult feelings, forgive yourself, and replace old habits with routines that support peace and resilience. You will learn how to set boundaries, protect your energy, and respond to challenges with focus instead of fear. By following these strategies, you will start making choices that strengthen your confidence, improve relationships, and bring clarity to your daily life. This audiobook also teaches how to turn setbacks into lessons, approach life with steady determination, and develop habits that promote long-term emotional balance. Stay with this audio because the steps build progressively, and by the end, you will have a complete guide to living with clarity, purpose, and calm every single day. Chapter 1: Release painful memories and rebuild a calmer inner space. Painful memories have a way of staying in the mind long after the moment has passed. They sit in quiet corners of the heart, waiting for a sound or name or thought to wake them up again. Many people try to ignore them, and many try to pretend they have moved on, but the body and mind hold on to what has not been faced. The first step toward emotional freedom is understanding that painful memories do not disappear through denial. They loosen their hold when you decide to see them clearly without running away. There is strength in facing what once felt impossible, because the act of facing it opens a door you have kept closed out of fear or habit. The calm you are trying to build does not begin outside. It begins with the courage to acknowledge the weight you carry inside, and the patience to work through it without judgment. Releasing painful memories does not mean forgetting the past. It means removing the control those memories have over the direction of your life today. It means giving yourself room to breathe without being pushed back into old emotional storms. Every person carries moments they wish they could erase. It may be the memory of a betrayal, a harsh word, a loss, or a situation that left you feeling small or unworthy. These memories create emotional noise that follows you into your decisions, your relationships, and even the way you see yourself. When this noise becomes constant, life feels heavy even on calm days. The world feels unsafe even when nothing. You begin to react to the present as if it were the past. This is why letting go is not a luxury. It is an essential step toward a healthier and more peaceful life. Many people think letting go is a single action, but it is a daily practice. You release memories the same way you strengthen a muscle, one small and consistent movement at a time. The mind learns through repetition, and emotional healing works the same way. You show yourself kindness one moment at a time. You create space in your thoughts, one decision at a time. You breathe through discomfort without escaping it. You stay present even when the past tries to pull you backward. With each choice, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel more grounded. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to feel like the person you were meant to be, instead of the person shaped by past pain. To release painful memories, you must begin by creating a safe inner space where you can observe your thoughts without being controlled by them. You do this by slowing yourself down and noticing the exact moments when old memories appear. People often react automatically, but automatic reactions keep the memory alive. When you pause and notice your reactions, you interrupt the cycle. The pause gives you power because it reminds you that you are no longer the person who lived that moment. You are someone who survived it. You are someone who is growing from it. You are someone who is choosing something better. When the mind brings an old memory to the surface, resist the urge to push it away quickly. Avoiding it only strengthens it. Instead, acknowledge it as a moment that has passed, not a reality you are living now. Tell yourself the truth about that memory. You got through it. You learned from it. You are not in that situation anymore. The people who hurt you do not have the same power. The version of you who felt weak is not the version standing here today. When you speak to yourself in this clear and grounded way, The memory it stops feeling like an open wound and begins to look like a chapter you have already lived through. Healing requires honesty, and honesty can be uncomfortable. But there is no calm without truth. If you want a quieter inner world, you must stop telling yourself that you are fine when your mind is unsettled. You must stop pretending that old experiences do not affect you. Pain demands to be acknowledged. If you choose not to see it, it will appear in other ways as anger, anxiety, avoidance, or emotional exhaustion. When you give yourself permission to feel what you never allowed yourself to feel, the tension in your body begins to release. When you speak openly to yourself about the moments that changed you, the tightness in your chest begins to soften. You create room for clarity and peace. Releasing memories also requires understanding your role in the present. You may not have chosen what happened, but you can choose what it means for your future. You may not have deserved the pain, but you deserve peace now. Many people stay trapped in old memories because they believe healing means accepting what happened. Healing does not mean agreeing with what was done to you. Healing means rising above the emotional aftermath so the moment no longer shapes your identity. Your past may explain your current struggles, but it does not define your future actions unless you let it. To rebuild a calmer inner space, you must create habits that support emotional stability. Begin by giving yourself time each day to sit with your thoughts without distraction. This allows you to understand which emotions belong to the present and which belong to the past. Most people carry old emotions into new situations without realizing it. Once you can tell the difference, you gain control over your reactions. A calm inner space is built through repeated moments of clarity. When you see a memory for what it is, it loses the ability to mix with today's experiences. Another important step is learning to forgive yourself for how you handled painful moments. People often hold on to memories because they are still angry at themselves for not knowing what they know today. You may think you should have acted sooner, or spoken up, or walked away, or protected yourself more. But you did the best you could with the knowledge and strength you had at that time. Judging yourself now for actions you made under stress or confusion only adds more weight. Self-forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is proof that you are ready to grow. When you forgive yourself, your inner space becomes lighter. You stop punishing yourself for the past and start supporting yourself in the present. Releasing memories also becomes easier when you stop telling the same painful story to yourself. When you repeat a memory, you keep the emotional wound open. Every time you replay the moment, your mind treats it as if it is. If you want to heal, you must create distance between who you were then and who you are now. Replace the story of pain with a story of growth. Instead of saying that someone broke you, say that you learned what you will never allow again. Instead of saying that you were not enough, say that you are building confidence and strength. Instead of saying that you were abandoned, say that you are learning to value yourself. This shift does not erase the truth. It simply tells the truth from a position of strength rather than hurt. A calmer inner space also requires attention to the environment around you. Painful memories often stay alive because your surroundings reinforce them. This can happen through people, routines, or even small details that remind you of what you lived through. Part of releasing the past is clearing your space of anything that brings back stress or emotional tension. This does not mean throwing away everything connected to your past. It means choosing what supports your healing and removing what keeps you stuck. You have the right to create a space where your mind can rest. You have the right to shape your environment in a way that brings comfort rather than emotional noise. It is also helpful to practice speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you care about. People are often harsh with themselves in ways they would never be with a friend. When a painful memory comes up, they judge themselves or call themselves weak. This self-criticism reinforces the emotional weight. Instead, speak to yourself with steady and honest encouragement. Tell yourself that you are safe now. Tell yourself that you are learning. Tell yourself that healing takes time. When your inner voice becomes supportive, instead of punishing, the mind becomes a calmer place to live. Releasing painful memories does not happen in one moment. But every time you choose peace over rumination, every time you choose patience over self-judgment, every time you choose truth over avoidance, the memory loosens its grip. You begin to feel space inside you that you have not felt for years. You begin to notice calm moments that used to feel impossible. You begin to feel like you are living in the present rather than surviving the past. This is the quiet strength you are building. This is the foundation of your healing. The process may bring discomfort, but discomfort is a sign that you are moving forward. Emotional healing requires you to sit with feelings you once buried. It requires you to understand yourself more deeply. It requires you to choose growth, even when staying the same feels familiar. But every small step matters. Every moment of courage matters. Every gentle breath you take when your mind wants to panic matters. These actions shape the new inner space you are creating, one grounded in clarity and calm. With time, you will notice that the painful memories no longer appear with the same intensity. They may still show up, but they will not control your mood. They will not dictate your decisions. They will not steal your peace. You will look at them with the eyes of someone who has grown beyond them. You will see them as moments that shaped your strength, rather than moments that define your pain. This shift is the true release. This shift is emotional freedom. Chapter 2. Choose emotional freedom and guide your mind toward peace. Choosing emotional freedom begins with recognizing that your mind is the only space you fully control. Thoughts will always come, and emotions will always arise. But how you respond to them is your choice. Many people spend their lives reacting automatically to circumstances, allowing old habits, external pressures, or other people's behavior to dictate their inner state. True freedom requires stepping back and observing your emotional patterns without judgment. It demands the discipline to notice when you are reacting from old wounds instead of responding from the present. This awareness is the first step toward taking control of your mind and guiding it toward lasting peace. Emotional freedom is not the absence of feelings. It is the ability to navigate them without being overwhelmed. Every emotion carries information about your inner state, and understanding this is essential. Anger, sadness, frustration, or anxiety are signals, not instructions. They tell you where your boundaries have been crossed, where expectations were unmet, or where old experiences are influencing your reactions. By seeing emotions as information rather than commands, you gain the ability to respond intentionally. This shift is empowering because it transforms emotional turbulence into a source of insight rather than suffering. One practical way to begin guiding your mind toward peace is to establish moments of stillness throughout your day. Silence and focused attention allow you to observe thoughts without immediately reacting. You might start with short periods, even a few minutes, focusing on your breathing, or simply noticing what arises in your mind. During this time, resist the urge to analyze or judge. Let the mind flow while you remain a calm observer. This practice trains your brain to pause before responding, which is essential for emotional freedom. With consistent practice, your mind becomes less prone to impulsive reactions, and a sense of calm begins to replace habitual stress. Another key strategy is identifying triggers that consistently disturb your emotional balance. These may be certain people, situations, or even thoughts that ignite frustration or fear. Awareness alone is not enough. You must also take responsibility for how you allow these triggers to affect you. This does not mean suppressing natural feelings, but consciously choosing how much attention and energy you give them. When you limit the influence of external triggers, your emotional state becomes more resilient. You begin to realize that peace is not dependent on circumstances, it is cultivated through deliberate choice. Practicing self-compassion plays a critical role in emotional freedom. Many people struggle with harsh self-judgment, which amplifies stress and keeps the mind in constant turmoil. When you approach yourself with patience and understanding, you create an internal environment conducive to peace. Recognize that mistakes, setbacks, and imperfect responses are part of being human. Treat yourself with the same respect you would offer to someone you care about deeply. This does not mean excusing harmful behavior or ignoring lessons to be learned. It simply means supporting yourself as you navigate your emotional journey. Guiding your mind toward peace also requires conscious attention to the quality of thoughts you entertain. Thoughts are powerful because they influence emotions and ultimately shape behavior. Negative thought patterns, repetitive worry, and self-doubt can trap you in cycles of stress. One effective approach is to actively replace destructive thoughts with constructive alternatives. This is not about forcing positivity, but about choosing perspectives that serve your well-being. For example, instead of ruminating on a perceived failure, focus on what can be learned and how to apply it moving forward. Over time, this rewiring of thought patterns strengthens emotional stability. Boundaries are another essential element of emotional freedom. Setting clear boundaries with others protects your mental space and prevents unnecessary emotional drain. Boundaries are not walls that isolate you. They are guidelines that ensure your interactions are respectful and supportive. Learning to say no when necessary, limiting exposure to toxic environments, and prioritizing your own emotional needs creates room for peace to grow. Boundaries also reinforce your sense of personal power, making it easier to remain centered even when external circumstances are challenging. Gratitude can be a surprisingly effective tool for cultivating a calmer mind. Recognizing the positive aspects of life shifts focus away from what is lacking or painful. This does not deny difficulties, but balances perception so that challenges do not dominate emotional energy. Practicing gratitude daily by reflecting on what you appreciate in your day, noting accomplishments, or acknowledging supportive relationships anchors the mind in the present moment. Over time, gratitude becomes a lens through which life is viewed, reducing anxiety and creating a foundation for sustained emotional freedom. Mindful attention to the present moment strengthens the ability to guide your mind. Emotional pain often intensifies when the mind dwells on the past or worries about the future. Developing the habit of noticing your surroundings, sensations, and immediate experiences brings awareness back to the present. You can practice this while walking, eating, or performing simple tasks by fully engaging your senses and observing without judgment. The present is the only space where change can occur, and cultivating focus here reduces the power of past memories and future fears over your emotions. Forgiveness is a critical step in achieving emotional freedom. Holding on to resentment or grudges ties your energy to the actions of others and prevents inner peace. Forgiveness does not excuse behavior or mean reconciliation. It is an internal choice to release the burden of anger and reclaim your own emotional autonomy. When you forgive, you detach your well-being from what others did or did not do. This creates a lighter and calmer internal space where clarity and rational thought can flourish. Developing emotional freedom also involves regular reflection. Take time to examine patterns in your responses, noticing where you are reactive and where you maintain control. Journaling can be a practical tool, allowing you to track triggers, emotional responses, and insights gained from observing yourself. Over weeks and months, these reflections reveal progress and areas that require attention. Reflection provides a roadmap for growth and helps solidify the habit of intentional emotional management. Movement and physical care are inseparable from emotional health. Stress and emotional tension accumulate in the body, and neglecting physical needs can intensify mental turbulence. Regular exercise, adequate rest, and proper nutrition support emotional stability. Physical routines reinforce discipline and self-respect, sending a consistent message to the mind that you are capable of caring for yourself and maintaining balance. A strong, nourished body enhances resilience and provides a steady platform for emotional freedom. Breathing techniques offer immediate tools to regain composure when emotions surge. Deep, controlled breaths slow the nervous system and signal the body that it is safe. When anxiety, anger, or fear rises, pausing to focus on the breath interrupts automatic reactions and provides a moment of clarity. Practicing this consistently strengthens self-control, making emotional freedom more accessible in real-world situations. Guiding your mind toward peace also involves limiting exposure to negativity in the media, social networks and conversations, constant immersion in conflict, gossip, or fear-based content can erode emotional stability. Being selective about what you consume creates a supportive environment for the mind. You are not avoiding reality. You are choosing to protect the space in which your emotional growth occurs. This selective attention reinforces the practice of choosing peace rather than reacting to every disturbance. Finally, patience is essential. Emotional freedom is not instantaneous. The mind has layers of habits and conditioned responses built over years, and transforming them takes time. Progress may feel slow, but consistent effort compounds. Small moments of choice accumulate, and the mind gradually learns to operate from a foundation of calm rather than automatic reaction. Each day of intentional practice strengthens your capacity to maintain peace and emotional balance. True emotional freedom results in the ability to respond to life rather than react. It allows you to face challenges with clarity, maintain stability under pressure, and nurture relationships without being hijacked by old patterns. It fosters confidence and resilience and creates space for creativity, joy, and genuine presence. Choosing freedom is not a one-time decision, but a continual commitment to observe, decide, and act intentionally. Every moment you invest in this practice builds a stronger, more peaceful, and empowered mind. By implementing these strategies consistently, you can guide your mind toward peace and maintain control over your emotional state. Awareness, reflection, boundaries, forgiveness, mindful attention, gratitude, and consistent practice are the pillars that support this transformation. The more you commit to observing your thoughts, choosing your responses, and creating supportive habits, the more naturally peace becomes your default state. Emotional freedom is both a skill and a way of living that enhances every area of life, allowing you to move through the world with calm, clarity, and strength. This ongoing practice of choosing emotional freedom does more than reduce suffering. It transforms the quality of your life. Decisions are made with clarity, relationships improve because you act from understanding rather than reaction, and opportunities appear because your mind is focused and receptive. The act of guiding your mind toward peace becomes a form of personal mastery, one that grows stronger each day through conscious effort. Over time, the freedom you cultivate becomes a permanent part of who you are, creating a life that is steady, balanced, and resilient, even in the face of challenges. Chapter 3. Face old wounds and give yourself permission to heal. Healing begins when you stop avoiding the moments that have caused you pain and decide to confront them directly. Old wounds exist because they were never fully addressed, and trying to ignore them only prolongs discomfort. Facing these wounds requires courage because it involves feeling emotions you may have buried or denied for years. This is not a process of rushing through pain, but allowing yourself to acknowledge it fully and honestly. By giving yourself permission to experience what you once suppressed, you open the door to genuine healing and emotional clarity. Many people resist facing their old wounds because it feels unsafe or overwhelming. It is natural to want to protect yourself from discomfort, yet avoidance often strengthens the power these experiences hold over your mind. Observing your emotional reactions without trying to suppress them allows insight into how these wounds influence your thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. Today you begin to notice patterns that repeat across relationships, work, and personal choices. This awareness is the first step in breaking cycles that no longer serve you. The process of facing old wounds involves recognizing the impact of past experiences without assigning blame to yourself or others. Emotional pain often comes with a narrative that exaggerates personal responsibility or resentment toward others. By separating facts from assumptions, you reduce the intensity of the emotional charge. You can examine situations objectively, understand your feelings, and gradually take back control over your reactions. The goal is to regain power over your inner world, rather than be ruled by the past. Journaling can be a powerful tool for this process. Writing about experiences that hurt you helps organize thoughts and feelings that may have been tangled for years. As you document your experiences, allow yourself to explore emotions in depth, naming them without judgment. You may uncover hidden layers of grief, anger, or fear that have influenced your behavior unconsciously. Recording your journey makes your healing tangible, and each entry becomes a step toward understanding and acceptance. Another vital part of healing is allowing yourself to feel sadness, anger, or fear fully and safely. Many people attempt to push these emotions away because they are uncomfortable, yet suppressing them only prolongs suffering. Instead, create a safe space for emotions to exist. This might be a quiet room, a moment of meditation, or simply a few minutes alone to focus on your breath and acknowledge what you feel. Feeling does not make you weak. It allows the mind and body to process experiences, release tension, and restore balance. Forgiveness is essential in this journey. Forgiving yourself and others does not mean condoning past actions. It is a conscious choice to release the emotional grip those actions have on your present life. Holding on to resentment and guilt keeps old wounds alive, creating cycles of pain that can influence every decision you make. When you forgive, you take responsibility for your peace, reclaim your energy, and allow yourself to move forward without carrying unnecessary burdens. Healing old wounds also involves establishing boundaries with people or situations that trigger past pain. Emotional triggers often arise when familiar patterns are reactivated. By identifying these triggers and limiting exposure or reshaping interactions, you protect your emotional progress. Boundaries are a practical act of self-respect that allows the mind to feel safe while confronting and processing difficult memories. They ensure that healing is supported by the environment rather than undermined by repeated stress. Developing self-compassion is a crucial element in giving yourself permission to heal. Often, people carry internal voices of judgment, shame, or criticism that make it difficult to face old wounds. These voices can convince you that healing is unnecessary or that your suffering is your fault. Practicing self-compassion means speaking to yourself kindly, acknowledging the difficulty of the journey, and recognizing that you deserve understanding and care. This attitude reduces resistance to confronting pain and reinforces emotional resilience. Structured reflection also aids the process. Set aside time to consider what specific experiences continue to influence your thoughts and behaviors. Analyze the lessons learned from each situation and identify what you need now to feel safe and whole. This reflection helps transform pain into actionable insights. You gain clarity on what changes are necessary, which habits reinforce old wounds, and which choices support healing and personal growth. Healing is strengthened through consistent daily practices that nurture emotional balance. Techniques such as mindful breathing, meditation, or even brief pauses during the day to check in with your feelings help anchor the mind in the present. These practices reinforce awareness and create a sense of stability as you navigate challenging emotions. They remind you that while the past shapes experiences, it does not dictate your current state. Choosing to engage in these practices consistently builds emotional stamina and allows you to confront old wounds without feeling overwhelmed. Recognizing and honoring your physical responses to old wounds is also important. Emotional pain is often stored in the body as tension, fatigue, or discomfort. Practices like gentle exercise, stretching, or mindful movement help release this tension. When you attend to the physical and emotional aspects simultaneously, healing becomes more integrated. The body learns that it can relax in the presence of painful memories, which further reinforces a sense of safety and control. A critical part of this process is adjusting your expectations. Healing is not linear. Some days will feel lighter, while others may bring a resurgence of old feelings. This is natural and does not signify failure. Accepting that the path to emotional freedom includes setbacks allows you to navigate difficulties without becoming discouraged. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to reinforce resilience and strengthen the strategies that support your emotional well-being. Seeking support is another practical and effective step. This can be through friends, family, or trained professionals who can offer guidance, understanding, and perspective. External support does not replace personal responsibility, but provides resources that make the process. Talking about experiences, receiving feedback, and gaining insight from others can illuminate aspects of your journey that are difficult to see alone. Support systems reinforce the message that healing is possible and sustainable. Visualization and mindful imagining can be powerful tools for granting yourself permission to heal. Picture yourself letting go of emotional weight or standing in a state of calm and peace. This exercise helps train the brain to accept the idea that healing is attainable. Over time, visual reinforcement strengthens the mind's capacity to release fear, resentment, and self-blame. Visualization complements reflection and mindfulness, creating a mental blueprint for a healthier emotional state. Another essential aspect of confronting old wounds is learning to respond rather than react to emotional triggers. When memories arise unexpectedly, pause and breathe. Observe what is happening internally without immediately reacting. Notice the physical sensations, thoughts, and emotions that appear. This observation builds self-control and demonstrates that you can face discomfort without letting it dictate behavior. Responding intentionally rather than reacting instinctively is a concrete way to reclaim authority over your emotional life. Integration of past experiences into your personal narrative is also necessary for complete healing. Rather than seeing old wounds as purely negative, understand how they contributed to your growth, empathy, and wisdom. This perspective does not diminish the pain but situates it within the broader context of your life journey. Integration allows memories to inform decisions constructively instead of controlling them destructively. It turns experiences into tools for learning rather than anchors for suffering. Creating rituals to acknowledge progress can reinforce the healing process. Simple acts, such as writing letters to yourself, practicing gratitude for your resilience, or noting improvements in emotional reactions, provide tangible evidence of growth. These rituals celebrate your commitment and remind you that each step, no matter how small, contributes to a larger transformation. Rituals create a sense of structure and achievement that strengthens motivation to continue confronting old wounds. Finally, patience and persistence are critical. Confronting old wounds and allowing yourself to heal is an ongoing practice. It requires dedication and consistent effort, even when immediate results are not visible. With time, old memories lose their power to provoke intense emotional reactions. The mind becomes more stable, choices are made with clarity, and the emotional space feels lighter. Giving yourself permission to heal is a commitment to a lifelong process of self-respect, self-understanding, and growth that ultimately leads to greater emotional resilience and freedom. Chapter 4. Replace heavy thoughts and welcome new supportive habits. Changing the way you think begins with noticing the thoughts that dominate your mind. Heavy thoughts accumulate slowly and often without conscious awareness, shaping emotions and influencing behavior before you even recognize them. They might revolve around self-doubt, past mistakes, fear of failure, or judgments about the world and people around you. Allowing these thoughts to persist unchallenged creates mental clutter and emotional strain. The first step toward replacing them is awareness. Pay attention to the ideas that occupy your mind most often. Notice when they bring tension, anxiety, or resistance. Observing them without judgment allows you to understand which thoughts serve you and which ones hold you back. Awareness alone does not change them, but it prepares the ground for intentional transformation. Once you identify heavy thoughts, the next step is to consciously question their validity. Many mental patterns are based on assumptions, distortions, or outdated beliefs. Ask yourself if these thoughts are objectively true, if they reflect the present moment, or if they stem from past conditioning. Challenging the accuracy of negative thinking reduces its power. When you recognize that a thought is not a factual representation of reality, you create space for new perspectives. This questioning is an essential skill that strengthens critical thinking and emotional resilience. Replacing heavy thoughts requires deliberate action. You cannot simply wait for the mind to think differently. You must guide it toward supportive and constructive patterns. Start with small, intentional interventions. For example, when a thought arises that you are not capable of completing a task, counter it with evidence of past successes or realistic statements about your abilities. When worry about the future appears, focus on what you can control today, rather than projecting into uncertainty. Over time, these small acts of redirection rewire the mind to focus on solutions and opportunities instead of problems and limitations. Introducing supportive habits reinforces the replacement of heavy thoughts. Habits shape your daily mental environment because the mind tends to follow established routines. Replace the habit of ruminating with habits that promote clarity and calm. Begin with simple actions such as setting aside specific times for reflection, practicing deep breathing, or journaling positive experiences and insights. These practices create mental pathways that favor constructive thinking. Consistency matters more than intensity, and repeated practice strengthens the mind's capacity to focus on thoughts that nurture growth and well-being. Physical routines also influence thought patterns. Exercise, proper nutrition, and adequate sleep directly impact mood, energy, and clarity. Engaging in regular physical activity releases tension and supports cognitive function, making it easier to maintain positive and focused thoughts. Sleep allows the brain to consolidate learning and process emotions, reducing the accumulation of heavy thoughts. Caring for the body creates an internal environment that supports the mind, making it easier to replace unhelpful thinking with constructive alternatives. Mindfulness is a practical method for managing mental patterns. By paying close attention to the present moment, you notice when heavy thoughts appear without being pulled into them. Mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts, but observing them and choosing how to respond. You might notice a critical thought arise, acknowledge it, and redirect your attention to a task, sensation, or breathing pattern. This act of observing without judgment strengthens self-control and allows supportive habits to take root. Mindfulness also helps you detect subtle patterns before they grow into prolonged cycles of negativity. Creating an environment conducive to positive mental habits reinforces the process. Surround yourself with people, media, and materials that uplift rather than drain your energy. Engage with books, podcasts, or conversations that challenge you to think clearly and act intentionally. Limit exposure to repetitive negativity, gossip, or content that triggers worry and self-doubt. Your mental environment shapes the habits and thoughts that are reinforced, and careful curation ensures that supportive habits have a stable foundation. Another key practice is reframing experiences. When a situation triggers heavy thoughts, intentionally reinterpret it from a perspective that highlights learning, growth, or actionable insight. Reframing does not deny reality or minimize difficulty. It simply shifts focus from being consumed by negativity to understanding the experience in a way that strengthens problem-solving and resilience. Reframing transforms the mind from a passive reactor to an active participant in shaping perception and behavior. Accountability can accelerate the development of new supportive habits. Share your goals with someone you trust or record them in a visible space. Tracking your progress helps reinforce consistency and provides feedback on your efforts. Accountability keeps habits active and ensures that replacing heavy thoughts becomes an ongoing practice rather than a temporary effort. It also provides motivation to continue even when challenges arise. Reflection is essential for understanding the impact of heavy thoughts and the effectiveness of new habits. Take time to review your day or week. Noting patterns in thought and behavior, observe which strategies reduced mental weight and which areas need additional attention. Reflection turns experiences into actionable learning and highlights the progress that may otherwise go unnoticed. This deliberate evaluation strengthens the mind's ability to maintain focus on constructive thinking over time. Visualization is a tool for solidifying supportive mental habits. Imagine yourself acting calmly and intentionally when stressful thoughts arise. Picture yourself responding with clarity instead of reacting emotionally. visualization trains the mind to anticipate positive responses, making them more natural when real situations occur. It also reinforces confidence in your ability to maintain emotional control and replace heavy thinking with productive focus. Engaging in activities that cultivate creativity, curiosity, or skill development provides an additional method for replacing heavy thoughts. Focusing on constructive tasks occupies the mind in ways that are challenging and rewarding. This reduces the opportunity for negative patterns to dominate attention. Learning a new skill, pursuing a project, or exploring a subject of interest channels energy into growth, oriented thinking, and fosters a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Gratitude is a practical habit that counterbalances heavy thoughts. Recognizing and acknowledging what is working well in your life or what you appreciate shifts focus away from deficits. Practicing gratitude daily, even in small ways, rewires the mind to identify positive elements consistently, creating a mental environment that encourages supportive habits. This reinforces the cycle of constructive thinking and emotional stability. Accountable action is necessary to prevent supportive habits from remaining theoretical. Implement your insights through consistent, deliberate actions. Set small goals each day that reinforce clarity, productivity, or calm. As these actions accumulate, they form a structure that naturally supports positive thinking patterns. The mind begins to associate effort, reflection, and practice with stability and growth, making heavy thoughts less likely to dominate attention. Replacing heavy thoughts is a gradual process, but the effects are cumulative. Each time you choose to redirect attention, practice mindfulness, engage in constructive activities, or maintain physical and mental routines, the mind strengthens new neural pathways. Over time, these pathways support automatic constructive thinking, making calm and focused thought your default state. Patience and persistence are key because transformation occurs incrementally but solidly. New habits should be designed to support both emotional and cognitive stability. This includes creating routines that balance reflection, action, rest, and stimulation. Habits that integrate self-care, intentional thinking, and learning provide a comprehensive foundation for replacing mental weight with supportive thought patterns. The consistency of these habits ensures that the mind remains flexible, resilient, and oriented toward growth rather than reaction. Finally, replacing heavy thoughts and welcoming supportive habits is an ongoing commitment. It requires daily attention, conscious decision making, and the willingness to adjust strategies as life circumstances evolve. Emotional clarity and mental strength are cultivated over time through intentional effort, observation, and practical application. As habits take root, the mind becomes lighter, more focused, and better equipped to respond to challenges with clarity and resilience. This practice transforms not only mental state, but overall quality of life. You act with intention, make choices from a stable foundation, and experience less internal conflict. By continuously monitoring thought patterns, implementing constructive habits, and remaining aware of emotional responses, your mind becomes a space of strength and calm rather than chaos and weight. The discipline of replacing heavy thoughts with supportive habits creates a sustainable path to emotional freedom, personal growth, and daily improvement. Chapter 5. Accept what happened and create healthier daily choices. Acceptance begins with acknowledging the reality of what has happened without trying to rewrite the past. Many people resist acceptance because they believe surrendering means weakness or giving up. In truth, acceptance is a conscious act of strength. It does not mean approval or indifference. It means facing events honestly and understanding their influence on your life today. When you accept what has happened, you release the mental struggle of resisting reality and create room for intentional choices that improve your daily life. Holding on to regret or wishing things had been different only prolongs suffering. Energy spent on blaming yourself or others drains the mind and clouds judgment. Acceptance allows you to shift focus from unchangeable circumstances to actions you can take now. By recognizing the facts clearly, you empower yourself to make decisions that lead to better outcomes. This shift from resistance to practicality is a cornerstone of emotional freedom and personal growth. Creating healthier daily choices begins with observation. Notice how your actions, routines, and habits align with your well-being. Many people move through life on autopilot, repeating behaviors that no longer serve them. By assessing your daily patterns, you identify choices that contribute to stress, anxiety, or stagnation. Awareness provides the foundation for intentional action because you can only change what you recognize. Without observation, habits remain unconscious and continue to influence your life unconsciously. One practical step is to structure your day with actions that prioritize well-being. Start with basic habits that support mental clarity, emotional stability, and physical health. These can include regular exercise, mindful breathing, balanced nutrition, and sufficient sleep. Small, consistent actions compound over time, gradually transforming daily routines into supportive frameworks for your mind and body. Each choice reinforces a sense of control and contributes to a calmer, more productive life. Another essential aspect is decision, making aligned with long-term goals and values. Many unhealthy patterns persist because people respond impulsively or emotionally without considering consequences. Intentional choices require slowing down and asking whether an action supports your health, growth, or peace. Over time, this discipline strengthens self-control and ensures that daily behavior reflects your best interests rather than temporary impulses. Emotional regulation is a crucial component of healthier choices. When faced with difficult feelings, recognize them without judgment and choose actions that support well-being. For instance, rather than reacting with anger or avoidance, pause and take a moment to breathe or reflect. Responding thoughtfully to emotional triggers prevents escalation and allows decisions to be guided by clarity instead of reactivity. The more consistently you practice this, the easier it becomes to maintain composure and make choices that foster growth. Healthy social interactions support both acceptance and productive daily choices. Surrounding yourself with individuals who encourage personal development, stability, and positive action reduces exposure to negativity and conflict. Relationships that reinforce accountability and respect create an environment where healthier habits are more likely to thrive. At the same time, maintaining boundaries with people who consistently drain your energy or trigger harmful patterns protects mental space and strengthens resilience. Reflection and self-assessment reinforce the creation of healthy habits. At the end of each day, review your choices and evaluate how they influenced your mood, energy, and productivity. Consider what actions contributed positively and which ones could be adjusted. Reflection provides feedback that guides continual improvement and helps maintain a cycle of growth. It also fosters awareness of progress, which reinforces motivation and commitment to intentional living. Mindful attention to daily routines can transform ordinary activities into supportive practices. Eating, walking, working, or interacting with others can all be approached with awareness. By engaging fully in each moment, you reduce mindless habits that contribute to stress or dissatisfaction. Mindfulness turns ordinary routines into deliberate actions that promote clarity, emotional balance, and overall well-being. This conscious engagement strengthens the habit of making choices aligned with your goals and values. Planning is another practical strategy for embedding healthier choices. Set daily intentions or priorities that reflect your objectives for growth, peace, and productivity. A clear plan reduces indecision and impulsive behavior, providing a roadmap for consistent action. Planning also reinforces accountability to yourself, making it easier to follow through and avoid distractions that might derail progress. Self-compassion supports acceptance and the establishment of healthy routines. Understand that missteps or lapses are natural and part of growth. Avoid harsh judgment when choices fall short and instead analyze them objectively to determine how to adjust moving forward. Treat yourself with patience and encouragement. reinforcing the mindset that improvement is a continual process rather than a one-time achievement. This attitude strengthens resilience and maintains motivation for daily positive change. Accountability enhances the effectiveness of new habits, whether through journaling, sharing goals with a trusted friend, or setting reminders for action. Keeping track of commitments encourages consistency. Accountability ensures that healthier choices are not only planned but implemented, reinforcing the development of practical routines that support well-being. Regular review and tracking provide both structure and feedback, reinforcing long-term behavioral change. Creating healthier daily choices also involves replacing unhelpful mental narratives with supportive ones. Thoughts that encourage blame, fear, or negativity can sabotage actions and reinforce old patterns. Counter these thoughts with statements that reflect your goals, values, and capacity for growth. Shifting thought patterns strengthens the alignment between intention and action, making supportive behaviors more automatic over time. Physical and environmental organization supports emotional and mental clarity. A structured, orderly environment reduces distractions and stress, making it easier to make intentional decisions. Simple adjustments such as maintaining cleanliness, minimizing clutter, and creating functional spaces promote focus and reinforce daily routines that support positive habits. When the external environment reflects structure and clarity, it reinforces internal states of calm and intentionality. Consistency is essential. Establishing healthier daily choices requires repeated action over time. One-off efforts provide temporary relief, but sustained change comes from continuous practice. Each small, deliberate choice compounds, reinforcing self-discipline, mental resilience, and emotional balance. Over weeks and months, these actions create a foundation for stability and empowerment, reducing the influence of past events on present decisions. Balance is also critical. Healthy choices are not only about discipline, but about integrating work, rest, and recreation. Overemphasis on one area can lead to burnout or imbalance, which undermines emotional and mental stability. Structuring days to include reflection, physical activity, productive work, and moments of enjoyment supports overall well-being. A balanced approach ensures that choices are sustainable and that growth occurs across all areas of life. Flexibility enhances resilience. While consistency is important, it is equally necessary to adapt routines when circumstances change. Flexibility allows for adjustment without abandoning progress. Recognizing when to modify actions based on current needs prevents frustration and supports ongoing development. Combining structure with adaptability ensures that healthy habits endure through life's challenges. Finally, the process of accepting what happened and creating healthier daily choices is ongoing. It requires attention, patience, and intentional effort. Acceptance frees energy previously spent on resistance and regret, which can then be redirected into practical actions that improve life quality. Each choice builds momentum toward emotional stability, personal growth, and sustained well-being. Over time, intentional daily habits transform the mind and body, creating a life guided by clarity, resilience, and purpose, rather than past pain or unconscious patterns. By embracing this process, you cultivate a practical framework for living deliberately. Awareness, reflection, planning, consistent action, mindfulness, and self-compassion work together to ensure that acceptance translates into real, positive change. The discipline of daily choice strengthens autonomy, reinforces emotional balance, and empowers you to create a life that reflects your values and aspirations. Each decision, however small, contributes to the ongoing development of a stable, focused, and resilient self capable of responding to life with clarity and intention. Chapter 6. Detach from draining people and protect your emotional balance. Protecting your emotional balance begins with recognizing the influence that others have on your energy and state of mind. People who consistently drain your energy, induce stress, or provoke unnecessary conflict can undermine your well-being, without your conscious awareness. It is not always obvious when someone is affecting you negatively because subtle patterns of criticism, manipulation, or neglect build up over time. Observing your feelings and reactions around different individuals provides insight into who supports your growth and who diminishes it. Emotional awareness is the first step toward creating boundaries that preserve stability and clarity. Detachment does not mean cutting everyone off or becoming isolated. It is the practice of maintaining distance from behaviors, attitudes, or patterns that harm your mental or emotional state. This requires a conscious choice to prioritize your well-being over the approval, comfort, or expectations of others. Detachment allows you to engage with people without surrendering your inner peace. It is a form of self-respect that ensures your emotions are not hijacked by external negativity. Start by identifying patterns that consistently leave you feeling drained. These patterns might appear in certain conversations, group dynamics, or specific interactions. Notice when you feel anxious, frustrated, or exhausted after spending time with someone. Recognizing these moments objectively allows you to see which relationships require adjustment. By tracking these interactions, you can create a clear understanding of how your environment influences your mental state and make informed decisions about engagement. Establishing boundaries is a crucial step in maintaining emotional balance. Boundaries define what behavior you will accept and what you will not tolerate. Communicate these boundaries clearly and respectfully when necessary. Boundaries are not meant to punish others. They are tools to protect your energy and focus. When you honor your limits, you teach others how to interact with you appropriately, while reinforcing your own sense of control and self-respect. Detachment also involves limiting exposure to toxic behaviors. You do not need to confront every source of negativity or correct every harmful interaction. In many cases, reducing time spent with draining people or avoiding triggering topics is enough to protect your mental space. Strategic withdrawal is a practical and effective method for preserving balance while minimizing unnecessary conflict. Protecting yourself is not selfish. It is a necessary step to maintain clarity and emotional resilience. Emotional self-care strengthens detachment. Practices such as mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or intentional reflection create a foundation of inner stability. When your mind is centered and your energy is renewed, the impact of external negativity diminishes. A strong internal framework allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively to draining individuals. Over time, these practices cultivate resilience and reinforce the ability to maintain equilibrium even in challenging environments. Evaluate relationships based on energy exchange rather than obligation. Consider whether interactions provide mutual support, inspiration, and growth, or whether they consistently leave you depleted. Detachment is easier when you recognize that not all relationships are meant to be permanent or deeply entangled. Some connections may have served a purpose in the past, but no longer contribute positively to your well-being. Assessing relationships honestly allows you to make intentional choices that prioritize emotional health. Practice communicating your needs clearly. Many conflicts arise from misunderstandings or assumptions about what is acceptable behavior. Express your boundaries and expectations assertively, calmly, and without aggression. Clear communication establishes a framework for respectful interaction and reduces repeated emotional strain. Even when others resist, your clarity ensures that your mental space remains your responsibility rather than a reflection of their behavior. Develop the ability to let go of guilt when detaching. Many people struggle with the belief that prioritizing themselves is selfish or unkind. Detachment is an act of self-preservation, not a moral failing. Recognize that your emotional health directly influences your capacity to contribute positively to others. By protecting your energy, you create a stable foundation for all relationships, increasing the quality of your interactions rather than diminishing them. Self-reflection enhances the detachment process. Observe how different interactions affect your mood, energy, and focus. Reflect on patterns that arise repeatedly and identify triggers that require adjustment. This ongoing self-awareness allows you to refine boundaries, practice selective engagement, and respond intentionally rather than reactively. The more consistently you monitor your emotional state, the better equipped you are to protect it. Engaging in supportive social networks reinforces balance. Surround yourself with people who uplift, encourage, and motivate you. Positive relationships provide a buffer against negativity and reinforce constructive emotional habits. Seek individuals who challenge you in healthy ways, respect your boundaries, and contribute to your growth. Investing in relationships that energize rather than drain strengthens your overall emotional resilience and helps maintain equilibrium. Mindful observation of your own reactions is essential. Pay attention to moments when you feel emotionally triggered, anxious, or drained. Explore the origin of these reactions without self-judgment. Understanding your triggers allows you to intervene before emotions escalate, reducing the impact of others' behavior on your state of mind. Developing this skill turns detachment into a conscious, intentional practice rather than a passive response. Implementing structured routines creates a stable framework for emotional balance. Daily practices such as meditation, exercise, reading, or journaling provide predictable spaces for reflection and restoration. These routines reinforce resilience and prevent external influences from overwhelming your mental state. Consistency in supportive habits strengthens the mind and energy levels, making it easier to maintain detachment and clarity in interactions. Recognize that detachment is a gradual process. Some people will resist your boundaries, while old patterns of interaction may persist. Patience and persistence are key. Consistently enforcing your limits, maintaining self-care routines, and prioritizing energy management gradually reshape relationships and interactions. Over time, the mind becomes less reactive, and emotional balance becomes a stable part of daily life. Visualization can support detachment by mentally rehearsing calm and composed responses to difficult interactions. Picture yourself maintaining composure and protecting your energy in challenging conversations. Visualization reinforces confidence, reduces anxiety, and strengthens the ability to act intentionally rather than emotionally. Imagining successful detachment in practice conditions, the mind for real-life application. Physical and environmental considerations further support emotional balance. Minimize exposure to draining environments, whether through reducing time spent in stressful spaces or creating peaceful areas for reflection and focus. Surrounding yourself with order, calm, and supportive stimuli reinforces inner stability and makes it easier to maintain detachment in complex or demanding social contexts. Regularly review the relationships and interactions in your life. Over time, priorities shift and patterns evolve. Evaluate which connections continue to support well-being and which may require further adjustment. This ongoing assessment ensures that your energy remains focused on what matters most and protects against gradual erosion of emotional stability. Ultimately, detachment is an act of self-mastery. It allows you to engage with the world without surrendering your peace, to navigate challenges without emotional compromise, and to maintain clarity even when others are chaotic or critical. Protecting your emotional balance is not an occasional effort, but a continuous practice that strengthens over time. Each deliberate choice to preserve energy contributes to a life that is calmer, clearer, and more resilient. By detaching from draining people, you reclaim control over your mental state and create space for meaningful growth. Observing patterns, setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and cultivating supportive networks provide a structured approach to sustaining balance. Over time, these practices become instinctive, allowing you to navigate life with greater confidence, stability, and peace. Emotional independence is not isolation. It is empowerment, enabling you to act from a place of strength rather than reaction, and to cultivate relationships that enrich rather than deplete. Chapter 7. Let go of control and trust your strength to recover. True strength emerges when you stop trying to control every outcome and instead focus on what you can influence. The desire for control often stems from fear, uncertainty, or past disappointments. Trying to micromanage life or the actions of others creates tension, frustration, and emotional fatigue. Letting go of control is not surrendering your life to chaos. It is recognizing the limits of influence and redirecting energy toward personal resilience and intentional action. Trusting your strength means believing that regardless of external circumstances, you have the capacity to recover, adapt, and thrive. The first step in letting go of control is identifying areas where your efforts are wasted. Observe situations where anxiety or obsession over outcomes does not lead to productive results. Many people expend immense energy attempting to change things they cannot alter, whether other people's behavior, past events, or future uncertainties. Awareness of these futile attempts is critical because it frees mental space and energy for actions that truly matter. Acceptance of boundaries around control is liberating and allows focus on meaningful choices. Shifting focus from outcomes to process reinforces resilience. Instead of trying to dictate every detail, concentrate on the actions within your capacity. This mindset allows steady progress even when external conditions fluctuate, when effort becomes the priority rather than guaranteed success. You cultivate adaptability, patience, and confidence. Each small intentional step strengthens your ability to respond effectively to challenges without being immobilized by uncertainty. Trusting your strength requires internal validation rather than reliance on external reassurance. Confidence grows from knowing you can endure difficulties and recover from setbacks. Life will always present unpredictable challenges, but resilience is built when you face adversity with a sense of competence and calm. Recognizing your capacity to handle difficulties transforms fear of the unknown into determination to act wisely and deliberately. Emotional regulation supports the process of letting go. Releasing control does not mean suppressing emotions. It involves acknowledging feelings without allowing them to dictate reactions. Anger, worry, or disappointment may surface, but observing them objectively reduces their power. By managing emotional responses intentionally, you strengthen mental stability and reinforce the belief that you can navigate uncertainty without losing balance. Developing routines that reinforce personal strength helps maintain perspective. Daily practices such as physical exercise, reflection, or mindfulness anchor the mind and body. Consistent habits provide structure, restore energy, and foster self-discipline. Routines act as stabilizers in times of unpredictability, allowing you to respond to external challenges from a position of resilience rather than panic. Over time, these practices reinforce confidence in your ability to recover regardless of circumstances. Acceptance of uncertainty is crucial. Life cannot be predicted, and attempts to control it completely are futile. Embracing uncertainty allows you to remain flexible and open to opportunities that might otherwise go unnoticed. Rather than resisting what cannot be changed, you learn to navigate it intelligently. Flexibility strengthens the mind and reinforces the belief that recovery is possible under any condition. Reflection is a practical tool for strengthening trust in your strength. Consider past experiences where you successfully recovered from setbacks, learned from mistakes, or adapted to unexpected circumstances. Recognizing these instances reinforces confidence in your resilience. This reflection reminds you that challenges are temporary and that your ability to endure and adapt has been proven repeatedly. Trust grows when you consistently acknowledge your own past successes and capacities. Strategic planning complements the act of letting go. While you cannot control outcomes, preparing thoughtfully for challenges increases your ability to respond effectively. Identify potential obstacles, develop contingency plans, and focus on actionable steps. Planning empowers without creating obsession because the emphasis remains on preparation rather than guarantee. This approach balances acceptance of uncertainty with proactive engagement, reinforcing self-reliance. Physical well-being supports mental resilience and recovery. Strong bodies facilitate strong minds. Practices such as exercise, balanced nutrition, adequate rest, and mindful breathing increase energy, reduce stress, and enhance clarity. When physical health is maintained, the mind is better equipped to respond to challenges calmly and intentionally. Trusting your strength becomes easier when the body is a reliable foundation rather than a source of vulnerability. Detaching from outcomes does not mean ignoring responsibilities. On the contrary, it involves performing your duties and making decisions with full commitment while recognizing that you cannot dictate results. This mindset transforms effort into action and stress into focus. Concentrating on contribution rather than control reduces frustration and increases satisfaction in the process of life. Visualization and mental rehearsal reinforce confidence in recovery. Imagine scenarios that could go wrong and envision yourself navigating them calmly and effectively. This exercise prepares the mind to remain composed under pressure and strengthens the belief in personal competence. Practicing resilience mentally allows you to respond to real challenges with less fear and greater efficiency. Seeking support when necessary is a strategic aspect of letting go. Asking for advice, feedback, or help does not diminish strength. It enhances your capacity to navigate difficulties. Building a network of trusted allies ensures that when challenges arise, resources are available to aid recovery. Knowing that support exists complements personal strength and reduces the compulsion to control everything independently. Mindful breathing and grounding techniques help manage the tension that arises from uncertainty. Focusing on breath, sensations in the body, or the present moment reduces anxiety and promotes clarity. These practices create a mental buffer that prevents impulsive reactions and allows rational, composed decision. Making repeated use of these techniques reinforces a stable mindset that trusts in the ability to endure and recover. Letting go of control also involves re-evaluating expectations. Unrealistic demands on yourself or others generate unnecessary stress and disappointment. Adjusting expectations to align with reality supports acceptance and reduces the compulsion to micromanage. By focusing on achievable objectives, you maintain motivation, reduce frustration, and reinforce confidence in your capacity to handle whatever occurs. Consistency in small actions builds resilience. Daily decisions that strengthen health, focus, and emotional balance accumulate to create a strong foundation for recovery. Each intentional step affirms your competence and reinforces trust in your strength. The combination of disciplined action, reflective awareness, and adaptive mindset gradually solidifies an inner environment that thrives under uncertainty. Patience is a vital component of recovery. Progress may be slow or uneven, and setbacks may occur. Understanding that recovery is a process rather than a singular event allows you to maintain composure and persist. Patience ensures that effort is sustained over time, which is essential for building lasting resilience and confidence. Finally, letting go of control and trusting your strength cultivates a mindset of empowerment. It shifts focus from external circumstances to internal resources, turning challenges into opportunities for growth. By acknowledging limitations, accepting uncertainty, and relying on proven capacities, you build confidence in your ability to recover, adapt, and continue moving forward. This practice strengthens emotional stability, enhances mental clarity, and fosters a life led by intentional action rather than fear or compulsion. Releasing control is a continuous exercise that deepens with practice. Each time you resist the urge to manipulate outcomes, consciously focus on your actions, and trust your resilience, the mind becomes stronger. Over time, confidence in your capacity to recover becomes instinctive, allowing you to navigate life with calm determination, clarity of thought, and unwavering inner strength. Trusting your strength frees energy, empowers decisions, and reinforces the understanding that recovery is not only possible but inevitable when approached with intention and discipline. Chapter 8. Break familiar patterns and open your mind to growth. Breaking familiar patterns begins with noticing habits and routines that no longer serve your growth or well-being. Many people continue the same behaviors because they feel safe, predictable, or comfortable. even when those behaviors limit potential or create frustration. These patterns can appear in thought, action, or emotional response, and often operate unconsciously. The first step toward change is awareness. Observe daily routines, reactions, and decisions objectively. Identify behaviors that maintain stagnation or reinforce negative outcomes. Awareness allows deliberate intervention and opens the door to new ways of thinking and acting. Growth requires willingness to experiment with unfamiliar approaches. Familiar patterns feel safe, but they often restrict opportunities for learning and development. Challenge yourself to take small, intentional steps outside of comfort zones. Try new methods to approach problems, interact with others, or pursue goals. Even minor adjustments disrupt stagnant cycles and expand the mind's capacity for creativity and adaptability. Over time, these deliberate interventions build confidence and reinforce a mindset oriented toward growth. Reflection on past patterns is essential. Evaluate situations where repeated behaviors led to predictable outcomes, both positive and negative. Understanding the consequences of habitual actions provides insight into which patterns support growth and which hinder it. Honest reflection fosters clarity about areas requiring change and reinforces motivation to adopt new behaviors. Patterns persist when unexamined, so deliberate evaluation is necessary to break the cycle. Replacing limiting patterns requires consistent action. Observing alone does not generate transformation. Identify specific behaviors or thoughts to adjust and implement concrete steps daily. For example, if procrastination has become a repeated pattern, schedule short, focused periods of work to build momentum. If emotional reactivity undermines relationships, practice pausing before responding. Consistent action strengthens new neural pathways, gradually making growth-oriented behaviors habitual. Openness to feedback accelerates change. Others can provide perspectives that reveal blind spots or offer guidance on more effective approaches. Seek input from trusted mentors, peers, or advisors and consider it objectively. Feedback provides actionable insights that enhance the ability to adjust behavior and disrupt unproductive patterns. Remaining open to external observation enhances adaptability and reinforces the practice of conscious change. Developing curiosity supports breaking old patterns. Curiosity encourages exploration, questioning assumptions, and seeking alternative approaches. When the mind is engaged in discovery rather than repetition, familiar habits lose dominance. Ask questions about how tasks can be performed differently, how relationships can improve, or how challenges can be reframed. Curiosity fosters creativity and flexibility, making it easier to embrace growth and innovation. Small, incremental changes compound over time. Attempting to overhaul behavior completely can be overwhelming and unsustainable. Focus on manageable steps that gradually shift routines, reactions, or perspectives. Each small change reinforces progress and demonstrates the capacity for adaptation. Over weeks and months, incremental adjustments accumulate to produce meaningful transformation, breaking long-standing habits and opening the mind to new possibilities. Mindfulness enhances awareness of patterns and supports intentional change. Observing thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as they arise allows recognition of automatic responses. By noticing triggers and habitual reactions, you gain the ability to intervene and choose alternative actions. Mindfulness creates a mental space where old patterns can be interrupted and conscious, growth-oriented behaviors can emerge. Creating an environment that encourages exploration and learning reinforces new patterns. Surround yourself with resources, experiences, and individuals that inspire curiosity and personal development. Engage with books, media, or communities that challenge existing assumptions and introduce novel perspectives. A supportive environment nurtures growth, reduces resistance to change, and strengthens the capacity to adopt new patterns successfully. Journaling is a practical method for observing patterns and tracking progress. Documenting behaviors, thoughts, and reactions provides concrete evidence of recurring tendencies and highlights areas for adjustment. Journaling also allows reflection on successes, reinforcing motivation and commitment to change. Written records create accountability and serve as a tool to evaluate long-term transformation and identify strategies that work effectively. Breaking familiar patterns often requires confronting discomfort. Change is inherently challenging because it pushes against familiar routines and expectations. Accept the presence of discomfort as part of the growth process rather than a signal to revert to old habits. Over time, tolerance for discomfort strengthens resilience and reduces resistance, making it easier to experiment with new behaviors and perspectives. Visualization aids in breaking patterns by mentally rehearsing desired behaviors. Picture yourself responding differently to a recurring situation, making healthier choices, or adopting productive routines. Mental rehearsal reinforces neural pathways associated with the new behavior, increasing the likelihood of acting intentionally in real scenarios. Visualization bridges awareness and action, supporting consistent practice of growth-oriented habits. Accountability ensures that attempts to change patterns are followed through. Share goals or new practices with a trusted individual or track progress independently. External or self-monitoring creates motivation to remain consistent and encourages reflection on setbacks or challenges. Accountability strengthens commitment to growth and helps prevent regression into familiar, unproductive behaviors. Self-compassion supports the process of breaking patterns. Recognize that old habits may persist temporarily and that lapses do not indicate failure. Treat yourself with patience and understanding while maintaining commitment to intentional change. Compassion fosters resilience, reduces frustration, and maintains motivation to continue breaking patterns and embracing growth. Flexibility is essential when experimenting with new behaviors. Some approaches may not yield immediate results or may require modification. Being rigid in expectation can lead to discouragement. Adapt strategies as needed while maintaining focus on the broader objective of growth. Flexibility ensures that learning remains a dynamic process, allowing the mind to adjust and integrate new patterns effectively. Celebrating progress reinforces change. Recognize achievements, even small ones, as evidence of the mind's capacity to adopt new behaviors. Positive reinforcement strengthens motivation, builds confidence, and encourages continued experimentation with unfamiliar routines. Celebrating milestones ensures that growth remains visible and tangible, sustaining momentum toward deeper transformation. Breaking patterns also involves examining belief systems that support habitual behavior. Evaluate assumptions that dictate how you respond, what you tolerate, or how you perceive limitations. Questioning outdated beliefs allows the mind to adopt perspectives that align with growth and learning. Belief adjustment works in tandem with behavioral change, ensuring that patterns are disrupted at both the cognitive and practical level. Finally, embracing discomfort, curiosity, consistency, reflection, and mindfulness cultivates a mindset oriented toward growth. The deliberate process of identifying, evaluating, and replacing unhelpful patterns transforms daily experience. Over time, old habits lose dominance, and the mind becomes flexible, adaptable, and receptive to opportunities for development. Breaking familiar patterns is not a one-time event, but an ongoing commitment to conscious living, learning, and expansion of personal potential. This approach ensures that personal growth is grounded in intentional action, practical reflection, and adaptive strategies, resulting in meaningful, lasting transformation. Consistently applying these principles allows the mind to remain open, resilient, and capable of achieving higher levels of understanding, skill, and emotional balance. Chapter 9. Forgive yourself fully and move into your next chapter. Forgiving yourself begins with acknowledging the choices, actions, or mistakes that have caused regret or self-criticism. Holding on to guilt, shame, or disappointment only prolongs suffering and prevents forward movement. Self-forgiveness is a conscious decision to release judgment and accept that past errors are part of the human experience. It does not erase consequences, but it frees the mind from repetitive self-punishment and opens space for growth. By forgiving yourself fully, you reclaim energy, reduce emotional weight, and prepare to engage in life with clarity and intention. The process starts with honest reflection. Examine your past actions without defensiveness or denial. Identify what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and the lessons each experience offers. Honest reflection allows you to recognize patterns, take responsibility, and distinguish between mistakes that are within your control and those that are not. Understanding the circumstances that shaped your decisions reduces harsh self-judgment and builds insight for better future choices. Acceptance is the next step. Accept that imperfection is part of being human and that errors do not define your entire character. When you hold yourself to unrealistic standards of perfection, guilt becomes a constant burden. Acceptance allows you to release the weight of what cannot be changed while retaining the knowledge gained from experience. It creates a foundation for moving forward without carrying unnecessary emotional baggage. Reframing mistakes is a powerful technique for self-forgiveness. Instead of viewing errors as failures, see them as opportunities for learning and growth. Ask what the situation taught you about your values, boundaries, or abilities. Viewing challenges as lessons fosters resilience and shifts focus from punishment to personal development. Reframing empowers the mind to transform negative experiences into constructive insights that shape future actions. Self-compassion is essential in this process. Speak to yourself with kindness rather than criticism. Replace thoughts of blame with understanding and encouragement. A compassionate mindset fosters emotional healing, reinforces self-worth, and reduces the mental spiral that keeps individuals trapped in guilt. Treating yourself as you would a trusted friend or loved one strengthens the foundation for authentic self-forgiveness. Set clear intentions to move forward. Forgiveness is not a passive act. It requires conscious commitment to leave the past behind and focus on present and future opportunities. Decide what actions, habits, or thought patterns will support your growth and implement them deliberately. Intentional living reinforces the internal shift from regret to empowerment, providing structure for sustained personal development. Releasing emotional attachments to past mistakes is critical. Continually ruminating on previous errors reinforces negative neural pathways, making self-criticism automatic. Use practical strategies such as journaling, meditation, or verbal affirmation to acknowledge the past and then consciously let it go. Detachment does not mean forgetting, but allows the mind to focus on constructive action instead of repetitive self-blame. Repairing relationships, when appropriate, can aid self-forgiveness. If past mistakes affected others, taking responsible and respectful steps to reconcile or apologize can provide closure. This is not always possible or required, but when feasible, addressing harm done restores integrity and contributes to inner peace. Forgiveness of self and efforts to repair relationships create alignment between values and actions, strengthening personal integrity. Forgiving yourself also involves forgiving limitations. Recognize that you acted within the constraints of knowledge, emotional state, and circumstances at the time. Everyone makes decisions with incomplete information, and hindsight often exaggerates perceived failure. Acknowledging limitations removes unrealistic expectations and promotes understanding of human imperfection. This recognition helps prevent recurring self-punishment and builds a realistic perspective for decision-making moving forward. Practical exercises reinforce forgiveness. Writing letters of apology to yourself, listing lessons learned, and affirming personal growth are effective tools. Repeating positive statements or mantras that emphasize self-acceptance and resilience reinforces new mental patterns. Structured exercises provide tangible methods to internalize forgiveness and strengthen the mind's capacity to release guilt permanently. Reflect on the impact of carrying unresolved guilt. Recognize how it limits potential, blocks creativity, and strains emotional well-being. Understanding the cost of holding on to past mistakes motivates commitment to forgiveness. Awareness of these consequences encourages deliberate action toward letting go, ensuring that the mind is freed for constructive engagement with present opportunities. Cultivating a growth mindset complements self-forgiveness. Focus on abilities to learn, adapt, and improve rather than dwelling on errors. A growth-oriented perspective transforms setbacks into stepping stones and creates confidence in the capacity to navigate challenges. This mindset reinforces the belief that mistakes are temporary deviations rather than permanent reflections of inadequacy. Consistency in self-forgiveness practices strengthens their impact. Daily reflection, affirmation, and mindful attention to judgmental thoughts prevent old patterns from resurfacing. Forgiveness is not a one-time event, but a continuous process of reaffirming self-worth, integrity, and commitment to growth. Each day reinforces resilience and the ability to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight. Visualization supports transitioning into the next chapter of life. Imagine yourself stepping away from past mistakes, embracing present opportunities, and acting with confidence in future endeavors. Visualization reinforces mental clarity and builds an anticipatory sense of empowerment. By mentally rehearsing forward movement, the mind becomes conditioned to act in alignment with growth and healing. Establishing new goals anchors the process of moving forward. Self-forgiveness is incomplete without action. Set objectives that reflect your values, aspirations, and desired contributions. Taking proactive steps toward meaningful goals provides tangible evidence of progress, reduces the likelihood of reverting to old self-critical patterns, and energizes motivation to continue forward. Forgiveness also includes celebrating progress. Recognize improvements in behavior, thought patterns, or emotional responses. Celebrating milestones, even minor ones, reinforces the capacity for change and strengthens the resolve to maintain forward momentum. Positive reinforcement creates a cycle of growth, encouraging continued self-compassion and constructive action. Supportive social networks enhance the journey. Surround yourself with individuals who encourage self-improvement, acknowledge effort, and model resilience. Engaging with people who reflect constructive attitudes reinforces personal growth and provides emotional reinforcement for self-forgiveness. Healthy social connections increase accountability, motivation, and a sense of belonging, all of which contribute to sustainable progress. Reflection on personal values guides action after forgiveness. Aligning decisions and behaviors with core principles prevents repeating past mistakes. Regular evaluation of choices ensures consistency with long-term objectives and maintains integrity. Living in alignment with values strengthens self-trust, reinforces confidence, and facilitates smooth transition into the next phase of life. Finally, moving into your next chapter is a conscious act of liberation. It involves stepping forward with clarity, purpose, and confidence, leaving the past behind without erasure but with understanding. Each decision, habit, and interaction becomes an opportunity to express the lessons learned and apply them in meaningful ways. Transitioning into the next chapter embodies growth, resilience, and empowered living. Embracing self-forgiveness transforms internal dialogue from criticism to support, replaces regret with opportunity, and allows the mind to focus on constructive action. By consistently applying practices of reflection, acceptance, compassion, and intentional behavior, you cultivate a life that is forward-looking, balanced, and empowered. Each step taken after forgiving yourself is a reaffirmation of your strength and capacity to live fully without being bound by past mistakes. Chapter 10. Build steady resilience and live with clarity and purpose. Building steady resilience begins with cultivating a mindset that views challenges as opportunities to strengthen character rather than obstacles to success. Life is inherently unpredictable, and difficulties will arise in ways that are beyond your control. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship, but about responding to it with composure, clarity, and determination. The foundation of resilience lies in understanding that every experience, positive or negative, contributes to growth. When approached intentionally, by strengthening your mental and emotional capacity, you ensure that setbacks do not derail progress, but instead serve as catalysts for personal development. The first step in developing resilience is fostering self-awareness. Observe how your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors respond to stress or pressure. Identify patterns that undermine stability, such as overreacting, withdrawing, or ruminating excessively. Awareness allows deliberate intervention and provides the opportunity to replace reactive habits with constructive responses. Recognizing personal triggers enables you to anticipate challenges and manage them proactively rather than being caught off guard. Building resilience requires consistent practice of mental discipline. Train the mind to remain focused and composed when faced with difficulty. Techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, and structured reflection strengthen the ability to respond rather than react. Mental discipline reinforces clarity, enabling rational decision-making even in high-pressure situations. Over time, these practices cultivate a steady internal environment that supports emotional equilibrium and intentional action. Establishing routines that support stability reinforces resilience. Daily habits, such as exercise, sufficient rest, balanced nutrition, and reflective journaling, create predictable structures that fortify both body and mind. Consistency in these practices builds stamina and reduces vulnerability to external stressors. A resilient person relies not solely on willpower in the moment, but on sustained, well-supported systems that ensure long-term stability. Emotional regulation is central to steady resilience. Strong emotions can overwhelm reasoning, decision-making, and interpersonal interactions. Developing the ability to observe emotions objectively, acknowledge them without judgment, and respond thoughtfully prevents impulsive actions. Techniques such as deep breathing, grounding exercises, and mindful pauses enable the mind to recover quickly from emotional spikes. Resilient individuals manage their internal state so that external circumstances do not dictate their behavior. Flexibility enhances resilience by allowing adaptation to changing circumstances. Life rarely follows a predictable course, and rigid thinking can increase stress and frustration. Practice viewing challenges from multiple perspectives and explore alternative solutions. Flexibility fosters creativity, problem-solving, and resourcefulness. It ensures that unexpected setbacks are met with constructive action rather than panic or resistance. Developing a growth-oriented mindset reinforces the capacity to recover and thrive. View challenges as opportunities to learn, expand skills, and refine strategies. Shift focus from obstacles to potential solutions and personal development. By embracing growth as a continual process, setbacks lose their paralyzing effect and become instruments of progress. Growth-oriented thinking strengthens confidence and nurtures perseverance through adversity. Self-compassion is an essential component of resilience. Treat yourself with patience and understanding when mistakes occur or when progress seems slow. Harsh self-criticism diminishes motivation and undermines confidence. By cultivating self-compassion, you reinforce emotional stability, reduce unnecessary stress, and maintain focus on productive actions. Recognizing your efforts and achievements builds internal support for continued perseverance. Strategic goal setting supports both resilience and clarity. Define clear, actionable objectives that align with personal values and long-term aspirations. Break larger goals into manageable steps, allowing measurable progress. Clear goals provide direction and reduce uncertainty, enabling focused action even in complex situations. A resilient individual relies on well-defined purposes to guide decisions, maintain motivation, and sustain effort through challenges. Reflection strengthens resilience by providing insight into experiences and responses. Regularly examine decisions, outcomes, and behaviors to identify lessons learned and patterns that require adjustment. Reflection allows continuous improvement and reinforces the ability to navigate future challenges more effectively. By systematically reviewing experiences, the mind becomes equipped to respond intelligently rather than reactively to adversity. Building resilience also involves cultivating supportive relationships. Surround yourself with individuals who encourage growth, provide constructive feedback, and demonstrate reliability. Positive relationships act as stabilizing forces during difficult times, offering perspective, guidance, and encouragement. Social support enhances problem solving, reduces feelings of isolation, and reinforces confidence in the ability to manage challenges. Developing problem-solving skills enhances resilience. Approach difficulties methodically by analyzing factors, evaluating options, and selecting effective courses of action. Break complex challenges into smaller, manageable components to maintain clarity and focus. Effective problem-solving reduces overwhelm and instills a sense of control, reinforcing confidence and reinforcing the habit of responding decisively rather than reacting impulsively. Consistency in applying these practices is vital. Resilience is strengthened not through isolated acts, but through habitual engagement with strategies that support mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Daily commitment to reflection, discipline, and growth ensures that resilience becomes a durable and dependable aspect of character. Repetition reinforces neural pathways associated with constructive behavior, making adaptive responses more automatic over time. Mindfulness anchors clarity and purpose by keeping attention focused on the present moment. Avoiding distraction from worries about past mistakes or future uncertainties allows decisive action and rational decision. Making mindfulness enhances situational awareness, reduces stress, and strengthens the ability to prioritize effectively. By maintaining mental focus, resilient individuals ensure that choices align with values and long-term objectives. Visualization and mental rehearsal support resilience by preparing the mind for challenges. Envision yourself responding calmly and effectively to potential difficulties. Mental practice builds confidence, reduces anxiety, and strengthens the ability to act with purpose when real situations arise. Visualization bridges intention and action, conditioning the mind to maintain steadiness under pressure. Purpose-driven living reinforces resilience by creating motivation beyond immediate circumstances. When actions are aligned with meaningful goals and values, challenges become manageable rather than overwhelming. Purpose provides direction, sustains effort during setbacks, and ensures that energy is invested wisely. Individuals guided by purpose maintain clarity in decision-making and are less prone to distraction, discouragement, or emotional depletion. Physical fitness complements resilience by ensuring that the body can sustain effort and recover from stress. Exercise improves energy, focus, and mood, enhancing the mind's capacity to handle challenges. A strong body supports a strong mind, creating a foundation for sustained action and composure. Integrating physical routines with mental strategies creates a holistic approach to resilience that is both practical and sustainable. Resilience requires embracing responsibility. Accepting accountability for actions, decisions, and outcomes empowers you to control responses and adapt proactively. Avoiding blame or passivity strengthens personal power and fosters clarity. Responsibility allows constructive reflection, reinforces integrity, and ensures that growth is rooted in conscious, deliberate choices. Finally, resilience is cultivated through ongoing practice and deliberate engagement with life's challenges. Each obstacle navigated with composure, each setback overcome with reflection and adjustment, strengthens the mind and reinforces clarity and purpose. By consistently applying strategies such as self-awareness, emotional regulation, growth-oriented thinking, mindfulness, goal setting, and supportive habits, you develop a steady, enduring resilience that allows you to live intentionally. Resilience ensures that difficulties become manageable, challenges become instructive, and every action is guided by a clear sense of purpose. Living with clarity and purpose is not a consequence of circumstances, but a result of deliberate, disciplined effort. By integrating these practices into daily life, Resilience becomes a permanent attribute that supports consistent progress, confident decision-making, and meaningful engagement with the world. Each step taken to build mental, emotional, and physical strength contributes to a life of balance, direction, and fulfillment. This approach ensures that no matter what life presents, your capacity to recover, adapt, and thrive remains unwavering.